Hey all, today I'm going to show you how to make 3 different styles of bows using either 1 inch wide or 25/22mm wide ribbon. So for bow style number 1 you need a clip. I've already lined mine, a strip for the centre and 6 pieces of ribbon. I've got 4 blue and 2 gingham and all 6 pieces are 2.5 centimetres wide or 1 inch wide. And all 6 pieces are cut to 9 centimetres in length or 3.5 inches in length. I've got some all-purpose adhesive and my lighter to heat seal the ends. So first of all I'm going to heat seal all of the ends on all 6 pieces of ribbon. So now we've heat sealed the ends, I'm going to take 2 blue and 1 gingham, set the other pieces aside, and this is for 1/2 of the bow. I'm going to first of all line the 2 pieces up next to each other, and then grabbing my all-purpose adhesive I'm going to pop a little bit of glue on the inner corners of each end of the blue ribbon. And then grabbing the gingham piece we're going to lay that over the middle of the join and glue that down on each end. I don't place glue down the middle because sometimes with the gingham ribbon that can show through because it's quite a thin ribbon. If you're using all grosgrain, then you can place the glue all the way down. I'm just making sure this is all in line and neat. And once that's done, you can then repeat those same steps with the other 3 pieces for the other half of the bow. And now we are going to pick up 1/2 and fold it in half like that, making sure it's nicely lined up across that raw edge. And then grabbing a needle and thread, I'm using extra strong thread and I've got a knot in the end, we're going to sew across that raw edge. It's beginning with 2 stitches in that first blue part, so that's 2. The third one going in through the corner of the gingham where it starts. Like that, making sure you catch all of the layers. 4, 5, 6, coming out through the last corners of the gingham, making sure I catch all of the layers. And then the last 2, so it's 8 stitches all together. The last 2 stitches in this end blue bit, 1, 2. And then we can pull in that pinch. So pull it tight, hold it in place, go through the end, don't pull it tight, go through that loose loop once to form a knot, and that will just hold that in place. Now these blue bits do move a little bit, but we'll glue that at the end by popping some glue on the underside. Now we're going to repeat those same steps, continuing with the same piece of thread, sewing again from right to left, 8 stitches across that raw edge. So the stitches look like that. Now we can pull this tight and that will bring the 2 halves together and then form that pinch, again going through that last edge, through the loose loop to form a knot. And then to bring the 2 sides together on the other end, I'm just going to go in through the opposite side and again back through this side and then again through the opposite side, and this time I'm going to seal it off without pulling it tight, go through the loop, and that will hold everything in place. Trim off the excess thread. Now grabbing the all-purpose adhesive again, we're going to seal these blue parts which can still move freely. To do that I'm going to gently lift the gingham ribbon which is in the middle and then line up the blue bits in the middle, making sure they're even, holding them with my thumb, and then I'm going to place the glue on this underside of the bow. The reason I do it like this is because, like I said before, the gingham ribbon is quite thin and sometimes you can actually see the glue through this ribbon. So by gluing the underside that won't matter. So just make sure it's even. And now I'm going to do the same on the other side. I've already lined a 45mm clip. I'm going to pop some hot glue on there and attach it to the underside of my bow. And then taken my 1 centimetre wide ribbon, this is cut to 9 centimetres in length. We're going to just heat seal the raw edges, pop some hot glue on one end, beginning on the underside of the clip central to the bow. We're then going to wrap this around the centre. On the first go around, I like to add a touch of glue along the join, just to make sure that's held nicely all in place. Then I'm going to go around for the second time and then just finish off by gluing that last end down underneath the clip. And now for bow style number 2. You will need a piece to wrap around the centre and a clip, and then 2 pieces of ribbon. I've chosen 1 blue, 1 gingham again because I'm making some school bows. Both of these pieces again are 2.5 centimetres or 1 inch wide, and they are both cut to 30 centimetres in length, or in inches you will need to cut your ribbon, both pieces at 12 inches in length. First I'm going to line my gingham ribbon on top of my blue ribbon, lining them up neatly, and then I'm going to fold them in half to find the centre. And once you've found the centre, I'm just going to give it a little squeeze, and then I'm going to grab a pin and I'm just going to place that in the centre mark, making sure the 2 ribbons are pinned together and lined up. So it looks like this. Now I'm going to grab my lighter, and we must heat seal all the ends of our ribbon before we go any further. And now with my ribbon blue face up, because that's going to be on the inside, I'm going to bring this bottom end, making sure it's lined up and straight. I'm going to bring it into the centre mark and overlap it here by 1 centimetre. So grab my ruler, there you go, that is 1 centimetre overlap, and then I'm going to mark that fold. I'm going to use a little bit of heat from my lighter and give it a pinch just to mark that part, like that. I'm going to do the same with the opposite end, so bring it up, overlap the centre by 1 centimetre, and then mark in a crease at that point, using a bit of heat from my lighter. So we've got the centre piece marked and 2 creases coming out from the middle here. Now I'm just going to flip this over again because the gingham is going to be on the outside, and we're going to bring this crease up to meet this pin. So I'm just going to fold it up diagonally and line the pin up with that crease, just slightly overlapping it so we're in line. And then do the same with the other crease here, bring it down and fold it diagonally so you've got like this Z shape, making sure that the crease that we marked here is in line with the pin. So this is what it looks like now. And then I'm just making sure that the ribbons touch where they come out from the ends. So this inner edge here is touching the corner and this inner edge is touching the corners. And then I'm going to grab a couple of my fabric clips. I will link everything that I've used today in the description below, the clips, the ribbon, everything. So we've got that all now clipped in place. I'm going to flip this over so we can show you the back. This is the front, and now we're going to bring the tail ends into the centre. So lining the ribbon up, making sure it's tight. You will get a natural little bit of overlap here. That is absolutely normal, don't worry about that. So bringing it into the centre, making sure these ends here are in line, and then we're going to do the same with the other end. Bring it into the centre, diagonally lining it up with the other piece of ribbon across this middle here, and these ends are lined up. So you've got like this X shape. And then I'm just going to remove the clips and place them on either end, and that will just hold them in line. And then I'm going to keep the middle part pinched with my fingers. So this is what we've got now. And then I'm going to fold it in half to find the centre so we know where we're sewing across. So I'm just going to use a bit of heat again from my lighter, and that will just give me a guide for my sewing across here. Grabbing my needle, again I use strong thread and I've popped a knot in the end. So now we're ready to sew. We're going to go for 8 stitches across that middle, removing the pin first that we marked the centre with, starting off with 2 stitches in this first blue part, so there's 2 there, and then 4 across this gingham part, making sure we catch those layers where that crossover here, so catch all of those layers, and then our 4th stitch, 5th stitch, 6th stitch coming out again where they cross over, making sure you catch all of those layers, and then our 7th stitch and 8th stitch both in this blue part, so 7 and 8 coming out through the end. So the stitches look like this. This is what it looks like on the back, and then we can remove these clips now. Now before I pull this tight, I'm going to just trim off these little flaps here. You've got one there and one on the inside. That will just help neaten it up. So folding the bow back, cutting against the stitch but not through the stitch. Carefully remove that corner and then heat seal the raw edge. And then again, revealing the other flaps, folding all the bow bits back so that you don't cut your bow after all that hard work. And just trim off that little corner bit that's sticking out, and then again heat seal the raw edges. Just remove those bits, and now we're ready to pull in the pinch. So pulling that thread to form that pinch in the middle, and then once it's nice and tight you can wrap the thread around that centre, making sure it's central a few times just to hold it in place. And then on the underside we're going to seal it off by just going through a little bit of the ribbon, catching a bit of the ribbon at the bottom. Don't pull it tight, go through that loop a couple of times, once or twice is enough, and that will just form a knot. Ready to trim off the excess thread, and then I'm just going to trim off that other little tail end from this side. And now we're ready to add our clip and our centre strip. So grabbing my clip, which I've already lined, I'm going to place some hot glue across the top, place that underneath my bow central, and then taking my strip, again this is 9 centimetres, I'm heat sealing the ends, so it's 9 centimetres in length, and then I'm just going to place some hot glue on one end, open my clip and place the end central to the bow, and then as always on the first go around I like to place a little bit of glue just on the join to make sure everything keeps in place. And then I'm going to go round for the second time underneath the clip, back round the front, and then the last little piece, a little bit of hot glue, and then glue that underneath the clip to finish that off. And then just give it a little reshape, and then that is bow number 2 complete. And now for our third and final bow style. You will need a clip, and I've already lined mine, a strip for the centre, and 3 pieces of ribbon. I've got 2 blue the same length. Again, these are both 2.5 centimetres wide or 1 inch wide, and both of the blue pieces are cut to 14 centimetres in length, or in inches you will need 5 3/4 inches in length, and that is the 2 blue pieces. And for the gingham piece, this is for the base bow, again 2.5 centimetres or 1 inch wide, and this is cut to 18 centimetres in length, or in inches you need to cut it to 7.5 inches in length. Now we're going to make the top part of our bow first, but first of all we must heat seal all 6 ends of the ribbon. So So now we've got our ends heat sealed. Picking up one of our blue pieces, we're going to fold the ends in diagonally, and you want the corners to slightly overlap where they meet. So this corner is just going to slightly overlap, so I'm just going to tuck that in a little bit, and this side is also in line and slightly overlapping. Just check the back, and then I'm just going to grab a clip to hold that in place. So you've got this X shape here, and the corners are in line, and this is the other side, so it looks like that. And now we're going to do the same with the other blue piece, making sure we fold it the same way. So we've got the left side over the top, so fold the right side in first and then the left, making sure the corners are meeting up with the edges and slightly overlapping, like that. And then I'm just going to hold them together to make sure they're the same width. One's not wider than the other. And now I've got my needle again with some strong thread and a knot in the end. We are going to turn this over and sew across this straight line, making sure when you come in through the first edge you catch all of those layers, including that corner, like that. And then second stitch, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh and eighth, again catching that last corner here. So we've got 8 stitches. Just make sure I pull that all the way through. We've got a little bit of a tangle. There you go. So it looks like this at the front. And then we're going to repeat that with the other piece, continuing with the same piece of thread. 8 stitches coming in from the bottom, catching the corner. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, making sure I catch that last corner. So now they're in line like this. Just removing the clips, we're now going to trim off the excess ribbon. I'll just pull them together so they're in line. And we're going to trim off those overhangy flaps here, making sure you don't cut your stitching. Just cut along that straight edge of ribbon. Just grab that cotton there so I don't cut it. So trimming those pieces off, and then we're going to heat seal. Again, making sure you don't burn your thread, because you don't want to break the thread and have to re-sew it. So carefully heat seal along that edge. And now we can flip these over, and then we're going to join these together. So I'm going to pull this tight, and that will form the pinches on both halves. That bit keeps flipping over. Just making sure they're both the same way up. So pulling it all tight so both pinches come into the ribbon. And then once they're nice and tight, holding it in place, go through that end and then through that loop a couple of times before you pull it tight to form a knot. And then to bring the loose ends together, again I'm going to flip it over, go in through the opposite side, and that will bring the 2 ends together. Again, go through the other side, and then again through the opposite side. This time, not pulling it tight, I'm going to go through the loop to form a knot again, and then we can trim off the excess thread. For the base bow, we're going to make a pinwheel bow. So taking your gingham ribbon, fold both ends diagonally the opposite way, so you've got like a Z shape, leaving a centimetre overhang each side roughly. I do this by eye, you can measure up against your top bow. Once you're happy with that, pop a couple of clips on there, folding it up in half so we can mark a line, a crease as a stitch guide. And then taking my needle and thread, again strong thread, not at the end, we're going to sew across this middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Remove the clips off the ends and then pull in that pinch. And then once that's in there tightly, hold it in place, wrap the thread around the centre a few times, and then we're going to seal it off on the underside by just going in through the bottom of the ribbon slightly, and then through that loose loop a couple of times before we pull it tight, and that will form a knot. And then you can trim off those excess tail ends of thread. So that is the little pinwheel bow for the base bow. And next we can cut the tails diagonally. So from the inner corners I'm going to cut up diagonally, slightly rounded, and then just turn it over so I can get the other side. So you've got these angled edges on the tails. Heat seal those raw edges carefully. I barely have to touch this ribbon with the flame, that melts very easily. And then we can grab the hot glue and layer up our bow on the top of our pinwheel. Now grabbing our clip, I've already lined mine again with some matching ribbon. We're going to hot glue this onto the bottom of our bow. For the centre strip we're doing something a bit different for this bow. We're using the gingham ribbon, and this is cut to 5 centimetres in length or 2 inches in length. Now obviously this is a inch wide ribbon, so we need to make it narrow to fit in the centre. So to do that I'm going to fold both sides inwards, and then using the heat from my lighter I'm going to melt the end and give it a squeeze, and that will just hold it in place. Flip it around so I can do the other end. Again using some heat from my lighter, and that will hold it in place and make around a 1 centimetre strip. Popping some glue on the underside, sticking it under the clip, and then going around the centre of our bow. Again I like to just pop a little bit of glue along the join of the ribbon at the top. This piece will only go around one time because it's already folded over. And then finishing off with the last tail end, gluing it under the clip. That sums up 3 different style bows using 1 inch wide ribbon. Like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to my channel and press the bell button to turn on notifications. Thank you for watching everyone. Bye!